Always so fresh, delicious, and nutritious, Eggland's Best Eggs fuel the body with 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat compared to ordinary eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com to learn more.
Yeah. Welcome again to another episode of the Be Fierce and Try podcast. I'm Jill Bartholomew, your host, and I'm here again with Thomas Skelton of Merge Multisport. And we are going to talk to you today about Lake Placid. That Ironman was just about a week ago. I was there as an athlete. Thomas was there both as a coach and a spectator. Now, Thomas, I think you had actually originally been signed up for the race, right? You were planning to compete and ended up not being able to. And I thought maybe that was a good place to start because like we were talking about it before, and it happens to all of us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were there last year to support, and it's such a special place. And I was like, I have to do this race, not for anything, not trying to find any spot or do anything, qualification wise. It was like, it's just an iconic place to race. And I was like, I got to do it. And so we signed up like last year, I think at the breakfast, the day after the race, right? We're sitting there with some buddies eating and signed up for the race.
Well, I mean, at the breakfast is when they're dangling the discount carrot.
You can't pass that up, right?
It's so hard. I mean, I did the same thing last year. I'm like, and I'm like from Saratoga, so like, and I speed skated growing up. So I'm like, that iconic finish on the oval for me is a lot like going home. And like, yeah, wait, you're going to give me a discount to come and race this again? Yeah, of course. Because we've all still like kind of hung over from the race at that point.
Yeah. But, unfortunately, I had some plantar fasciitis that flared up in New Zealand after Worlds last year. And it's just kind of been up and down and up and down. And I'm finally like committing to work on it and work through it. And, but yeah, you can't, you can kind of fake a half, right? Ish.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't fake a full. You can't, trying to take on that distance, especially on a really challenging and hilly course like Placid. It's not the right thing to do to yourself, right? And I'm not going to walk a marathon. So
yeah, that run at Lake Placid it's no joke.
Yeah, it's legit. It's a real. I mean, this is what makes, and not to change topics, but maybe it's a segue. But like, this is one of the things that makes Lake Placid so special is that it's not a. You have to be a well-rounded athlete, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to, understand your gearing and be able to climb well and descend well and corner and be able to manage your nutrition on that rolling terrain. And, maybe you have thoughts about what your run and walk, strategy may be, but that may need to change up because the course is hilly and there's going to be rain. And it's a real true test of yourself as an athlete, not just your fitness. And I think that's definitely what makes the course so epic.
Yeah. And kudos to you for taking care of yourself. I have on multiple occasions, including currently, I've been on the injured list and refused to admit it. So I'm now on like month 18 of a hamstring injury that is potentially going to have surgery afterwards because at this point it's just not healing.
Yeah.
But that is a fantastic segue. So race day, the energy in the village was really high, I felt. Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about Lake Placid. I was reading this morning some of the Facebook posts, even like a week later, of people who have done this one and other ones. And it's like, I don't know what it is about Lake Placid. Everybody's excited. Everybody wants to be there. Everyone's got like that nervous energy in the air. And it shows, right? Like we've all done other races where like it's a little bit more low key. And I don't know if it's the race organizers, if it's because we're all like a little bit, too high of an elevation or what. But like it just always like that swim start is something else. You were out on the beach. It's a little bit cool. It sure looked like it was gonna just open up while we were standing there. And then the cannon goes off.
Yep. One thing they had last year, which was unbelievably cool, was they had a helicopter fly over the lake, during the Star Spangled Banner. And so like, this year I'm like,
about that.
Yeah, it was, I got a really cool video of it. And so I'm sitting there, pre-race, I'm looking for it. And I'm like, no helicopter. Okay. But it's still like, that definitely added to the epicness of it. And I don't know if it's because the course is what it is, because there's a really strong pro field that's there as well, or what, but it really is just, standing the pre-race morning of an Ironman is always special, right? But that one is just, it's something extra. Like there's some real icing on that cake.
Yeah. And this year so we get like the VIP thing for the family, because this is the one race that my whole family, like my husband goes to most of them, but this is the one race where like the kids are there, and there is nothing like a 12-hour race for the kids. And by the time the race starts, they've already been up for 3 hours. That morning was no different. It started with, Mom, why are we up so early?
Yeah.
The race doesn't start until 7:30. Why are you in transition at 4? Someday you'll know. But yeah, I raced this year with Foundation, and it was interesting because they had us start with the Nirvana folks. So we were like the first age groupers in the water. We're like 30 seconds behind the female pros and like 30 seconds in front of the, fast age group swimmers. And it was different because like when the third cannon goes off, I'm like, wow, that's us. And I got something that I'd never gotten before, a picture of us going in the water. I'm like, I've never gotten a picture from an Ironman event of me like getting in the water. Usually it's like getting out with that, oh my God, we're done. Look on my face.
Climbing out looking like a wet rat, right? A little bit
Yeah, they had us all at the start line with our finger on the watch,
nice.
Waiting for them to tell us, hey, it's time to get in. There was none of that beep 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 going on, which was kind of weird actually. I'm so used to that beep 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 beep, and then the volunteers being like, go, and this time they're like, it was like, boom, get in the water. So that was different, and it was interesting because I'm a reasonably okay swimmer. I think I did like 1:14 this time around, which was a little bit slower than I was expecting, but like not terrible. And like that first wave of the age groupers around like the fourth buoy is when they found me. And you just get swum over. But still, how long did it take them to get all the swimmers out? Like it felt really fast this year.
It wasn't, I don't remember it being too bad. I really don't know. I mean, pretty much once it started, I kind of went and headed off to go get some coffee and some breakfast and try and get a little bit of work done while I had a window there because, there's not much to see. And, basically just, people swimming in a circle in the lake. And so I just kind of tried to take advantage of that window. So I don't know exactly.
Yeah, 2 circles, actually. Yeah. I do love that this one, like the first time I did Lake Placid, the swim 1.2 miles and then 100 feet across the beach and then 1.2 miles. And the first time I did Lake Placid, like the lead up, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Because I, that transition from swim to transition run is always tough, going from like horizontal for 30 minutes to we're running on our feet again. But I actually really like it because you got a water table. That to me is like huge. And the cable, let's talk about the cable for a second.
Okay, I've got some very, very passionate thoughts about the cable, but why don't you talk about the cable?
Yeah. I have a like love-hate relationship with the cable. Is like, one, it's hard to find. Especially like this week, because it's just like, I know what internet lore is, but it's just a thin, like, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch steel cable that's there to hold up the little basketball sized buoys that mark the swim course. I don't know if it's up year round or what, but every time I've been there, it's up. And, if you find it, it's like finding a thread in the darkness. Because yes, you can see a distance in that lake. It's very clean, it's very clear, but like there's no sunlight because it's like 7 a.m. or 6:58 or whenever it was.
I feel like over the years I'd heard so many people talk about the cable, and you can follow the cable. And so, obviously I didn't race last year, but definitely, swam with some buddies a couple times racing and swam this year too. You can't go there and pass up an opportunity to swim in that lake because it is just such a great lake, right?
It's perfect. But it's like, it's so gorgeous.
Yeah. We get in and you see you kind of get up to it and you see the cable and you're like, oh, that's disappointing, right? Everybody talks. It's like, oh, it's the cable. Cable and follow the cable. And I'm like, not that I'm envisioning like the black line of a pool, right? But I'm envisioning something like somewhat substantial, right? Like, I don't know. I don't really know exactly what I was thinking, but then you see it and you're just like, oh, it's literally just like a wire cable, like a 1/4 inch cable that like, unless you're within an arm's length of it, you probably don't really see it.
I had the same thought last year when I saw the cable for the first time. And if you look at my swim from last year, it's like you can tell where I went from sighting to, oh, I found the cable. Because then it's like straight, repeat. And, it's like this year, I actually struggled a little bit more to find it than last year because there was some wind and some chopping. There was actually, especially on the second loop, but the lake was actually fairly choppy. I mean, as far as Mirror Lake gets, because Mirror Lake doesn't get all that choppy. I mean, it's small, let's face it, right? But I ran into 3 buoys.
Yeah. And it definitely was, I think, a slower swim this year for sure, just to put that out, like looking at the times in general, right?
It did seem that way.
Yeah. Just a couple minutes on average, right? Depending on, I think probably slower swimmers probably lost more time, and obviously faster swimmers didn't lose quite as much. That's
I feel like this year I heard more about people getting pulled from the swim, where last year I don't remember hearing as much about people not making the swim cutoff.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I know I had 2 friends who were doing kayak support, and they definitely had a couple people that were hanging on them for a little bit, trying to sort out their life's decisions.
Yeah, and I know one person who actually got pulled out by a kayak. So like it did happen. And I was wondering, like, last year was a big year. It was an anniversary year. Like, did that attract a more experienced crowd than maybe like an average year does? But you wouldn't think it would be a huge difference.
Yeah, I think the numbers were down a little bit, but I want to say it was maybe like 200 participants, not finishers, but starters. I think.
Scott had mentioned we bumped into Scott in the VIP area, which is always fun. And you do it enough times and he remembers your name. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, it says like just under 3,000 total people. I'm like, that's still a huge race.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 1,900 finishers, something like that. And I don't know how many people actually started. I think it was like 2,200 or 300 that maybe started. I don't know. I was trying to look at some of the stuff on one of the groups, but
yeah. I think when I looked at it, and the data may not have all been in, but it seemed like there's about 600 people maybe that didn't finish, which sounds high.
Sorry, this is totally random, but I just remembered it. I'm sorry. I'm going to totally segue us. Not intentionally. The kid that was in the VIP tent for like 12 hours or whatever it was. Did you read about that?
I did. That was so shocking. I'm like, who decides that they're not going to, they're going to bring their kid to this event. They're not going to get a babysitter and then goes and races.
So I think there may have been more to that. And I have not, I saw something that there was, that maybe it was that parent was going to be on a podcast that's coming out at some point this week about it, and like all the details aren't there. I don't know. But I just had this, I don't know if you saw like one of the memes going around with like the kid vibing in like a club, and there's like,
there's all sorts of stuff.
Oh, there's so many.
Now.
Yeah.
But
I want your kids, I figured.
But like my initial reaction was, no, it was not my kids. But thank you for asking. Yeah, my initial reaction was like, holy crap. What makes you do that? But then like the other side of me was like, yeah, I kind of get it.
Yeah, just hang out here. Here's food.
Yeah. Especially at that age. Like some kids that age are not that immature, but at the end of the day, they're still kids.
Who knows? Sorry.
All right. So we did the swim.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of athletes there, right?
I only had one athlete racing, but I had a bunch of friends racing and supporting too. So
how'd they do?
Yeah, it was great. First timer. So that's always awesome.
It's such a great first time race, but it's also such an intimidating. It was my first race too, and it was my first full when I did my first full. And it's like the lead up is so intimidating because everything on the internet is like, oh my God, Lake Placid, it's so hard.
But, like talking to one of my friends who coaches, one of his athletes were riding, and she was kind of frustrated because people kept asking her, like, well, why are you doing Lake Placid as your first race? And she was like, do we not do this because it's hard, right? Like, we don't do this because it's supposed to be easy. We do it because it's supposed to be hard, right? So I think it's, you do that as your first, and then everything else is probably going to be a PR.
You would think it doesn't always work that way.
Sure.
I'm like, at this point, I feel like I'm sometimes like getting negative PRs.
That's not good. That's not what we want.
It's like I PR'd in worse, but now it's like Texas this year I did after like a long string of injuries and rehab, and I was totally untrained for Texas. But still, at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, it's an easier course and I did worse.
That's the fun part.
But all your friends and athletes made it out of the water.
Yeah, everybody did great. Absolutely. Everybody that was there supporting as a whole had a really great day.
Yeah. I saw you on the run course, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So the bike.
Yeah.
I love this bike course. I really do. I don't love the change that they made to it last year with the little covered bridge. Yeah, I'm like, and I think, transition is great, right? You got to run. It's a long run from the water to transition. You come out, there's the wetsuit strippers, which are very efficient. And, this year I somehow ended up in the sand. So like my whole back, the entire race was covered in sand. It was great, getting down in aero bars, and I have like the carbon cups and, getting down. Well, you have the same ones, right? Similar ones
for like a couple days.
Okay. Well, I'm changing mine out too. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, anyways, so like, they're like, I have the like carbon fiber U-shaped cups, and that sand like against my arm the whole race is like, oh.
It didn't get rinsed off in the like downpours.
I think it might have eventually, but you're like in there and
oh yeah.
No. I think the climb out of town is underrated. When we talk about like how difficult Lake Placid is, I actually think that the hardest part of Lake Placid is the climb to the top of the Keene descent.
Do you think that's physical or mental?
No, maybe both. Yeah. It's long.
Yeah.
It's not, it's what Keene descent is right around like 10, 11 miles from the start. Van Hovenberg is at like the 6.5, 7 mark. And, it's just like you kind of start going downhill and you're like, wee. And then you're just on the climb out, and, that the initial climb out of town is not bad. But then once you get past the little downhill by the ski slopes, that's when it starts. And it's like, the next like 4 or 5 miles is like pretty straight up.
And it's not, I've ridden the course a couple times, so, I always feel like it's not steep. It's just, it keeps long. Going. Yeah.
Yes. And then, it's one of those where like there's like the false summit. Like you're like, oh, we're almost there. And then shit, no, we're not. Yeah. And that happens like 3 or 4 times. But anyways, now they made a change to the aid station. So like last year, they had just repaved the biathlon circuit down at Mount Van Hovenberg. And that was kind of neat riding on the biathlon circuit. And they had the aid station set up like right on it. But I remember last year in the back of my head being like, don't fall, because you could see like the oil beaded up still on the pavement that was less than 1 day old, because they had just paved it the day before.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, got up to Keene. I love Keene descent. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I think if you talk to 10 people, you get 10 different reactions to it.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Now, you've ridden it many times, right?
Yep. It's fun. It's a good one. We did get a random like 1.5 mile speed wobble when we were riding the course on Saturday. I really don't know why. My front tire it was on my road bike too, which was super weird. And it was only at like 45 miles an hour. But, I think tires and...
How fast?
Like 45, which is 45, not fast on that thing. But I don't know. I got new tires and some sealant. I think there's probably some dried sealant, and I don't know, whatever. Sometimes those speed wobbles start and you just kind of, you got to ride them out and be patient. So
yeah, I was telling someone, I don't know, I was talking to a bunch of people who were just super nervous about Keene. It was their first time. And, the internet lore is like, don't go fast. You're going to fall. I'm doing like 60 down it.
Yeah.
In aero the whole way.
Yeah.
And I had changed my chain ring before Lake Placid. I had changed it down one, and going down Keene, I was kind of regretting it because I was spinning at like 130 just to get anything to the ground. But then you've got the climb back into Lake Placid, which is where like,
we talked a little bit about that.
I remember this climb. It's unfun, especially the second loop. It's very unfun, the second loop. But no, I remember talking to a number of folks who were just super nervous going down it. And like Lake Placid, the bike's not that technical. Like you need bike handling skills. but it's not like most of the European races where you actually need bike handling skills. It's like, your goal there is to stay upright. Because at the bottom of the hill, if you miss the turn, the very worst thing that happens is you keep going straight. There's nothing you're going to run into.
The thing I always look at is like for certain athletes, right? Like if you're not comfortable descending, because a lot of people don't have options like that, maybe where they train to be able to work on. But if you hammer it versus if you kind of take it conservatively, like maybe it's 2-3 minutes, right? Difference in your time. And so if that's 4 to 6 minutes over the course of the whole bike, like certainly better to finish that bike in one piece, right? But it is also fun to rip down that.
Yeah, I think in talking to like first timers, my response became like, you go the speed that you're comfortable at. Whatever speed you're comfortable at is in fact the right speed.
Yeah, for sure.
For the same reason, it's like you come down a slope and then you have that, it feels like forever, but it's only like 2.5 miles, that section along the river.
Like where it comes down a little bit, then flattens out a little bit, then goes down again.
It's kind of flat and kind of straight. And you've got the river off to your right. You're in like that little valley. That's actually, with riding the disc, that's my least favorite part of the course. Like it's super scenic, but it's the windiest.
Yeah.
And then, then you have the proper descent with, where they give us the extra lane, which is, the extra lane usually going the opposite direction. Yeah. But there's a rumble strip you have to ride over. And like the first loop, I was, in the right lane. The second loop, the right lane was like super crowded, but there was nobody in the left lane. And so I'm like, all right, well, we're going to cross the median. We're going to cross the rumble strips at 52 miles an hour and see how that feels. And it turns out the faster you go over them, the less you feel them.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if you can hit it with some speed, but if you try and go slow over them, it's going to feel real bad, especially if you're hitting your points actively.
Yeah. And it was like, don't ride on them. It's like cross them. Like just get it done.
Yep.
No, I loved that. But that section, and then you kind of go out towards J, and is it in J where you hit the covered bridge? It's like around it's like the far point on the course.
J or upper J, somewhere right around in there. And then they have it's like a speed restricted, like no passing going through there for a little bit, for a minute, isn't it, on that path?
Yeah, like you remember last year, I think 1 or 2 of the pros got ejected from their bike when they hit the covered bridge. I didn't hear about that happening to anyone this year, but it's a heck of a bump getting onto the bridge.
Yep, it's a little bit of a bump for sure. It is kind of neat, but obviously riding it not on race day, the opportunity to like stop and peek out the side after the bridge too and take some pictures. It's super beautiful.
Oh yeah.
But race day, you're probably a little more focused on the bridge and the other.
Well, and it's at the bottom on race day. It's at the bottom of a hill. So like you've got some speed that you need to brush off. And for me, you asked about the rain. For me, on both loops, I hit the worst of the rain down at that end of the course.
Yeah.
Like I said to someone, I'm like, on a scale of 0 to 10, if 0 is like today, not a cloud in the sky, it's beautiful, and 10 is like the worst part of like a category 6 hurricane, we were like a 7.
Yeah, it got pretty heavy out there in some parts for a little bit.
Yeah, and I heard some people like felt like it was raining pretty hard most of the time. I don't know what their finish times were like. For me, like I was just hitting it for like maybe 10 miles at that kind of far end of the course. Yeah. And it was like kind of drizzly the rest of the time. I saw a lot of fog out there too, but I got the Wing Dream helmet, and I don't know if you've played around with that one. I think might have been talking about it up there, and it's an interesting helmet. So like my first time down Keene, when I was doing like a practice rundown, it was like floating off my head. It was acting like a sail. And I got that fixed. Turned out it wasn't cranked down enough. Like there's some extra adjustability
inside the helmet where you can put it down like your head a little more.
Yeah, it's not just the dial to make it tighter. Like you can move that whole assembly. So yeah, the Rudy folks helped me adjust it a little bit better.
Yep, I asked that same, and Mike was like, "Yeah, you can just adjust it."
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, because you pull on that, like it looks like it should adjust, but you pull on it and you're afraid you're going to break it." So it didn't happen to me on the second time, but the visor, it's so big under there. It's, pouring rain on the outside and it's pouring rain on the inside. And it's because, the wing has the vent that you can close, right? So you avoid the rain on the inside. This doesn't have that. And it's all foggy. because apparently I'm a hothead or something, but it was like all foggy on the inside. And I'm sitting there like with my thumb, like I'm trying to wipe the inside clean and it's not helping. And I'm sitting there going down hills with my thumb, like holding my helmet up so I can see like peek under the visor and maybe not fly off the road. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I've thought about, so, I had the previous one also, and they had a clear lens for it. Kind of nice on overcast or potentially rainy days, but I've definitely thought about like some anti-fog or Rain-X or like Rain-X on the outside or baby shampoo. Like I use baby shampoo for anti-fog goggles.
I never even thought about it because with the wing, I never had this problem. And someone on the course I was talking to afterwards, they're like, oh yeah, I took my anti-fog from my swim goggles and put it on the inside. I'm like, that's genius.
Makes so much sense, right?
I'm like, that's genius.
Yeah.
I wish I had thought of that before the race, not after it.
Yeah, definitely. I like some baby shampoo.
But. Yeah, but guess what's now on the inside of that place? Yes. But you're right. That's, going back to the covered bridge, that little section, it's not that long. It's like, I don't know, maybe a half mile. Afterwards, it's like no passing. But it's so frustrating too, especially on the second loop when you've got like, maybe some slower people hitting it for the first time and the faster people hitting it on the second time. And it's like, please move. Like, please pedal. And like, I was stuck behind like 3 people in a row who were not pedaling. I'm like, please pedal, please. You're on a bike.
It's definitely tough. I think that was it's just anytime there's sections on a course, especially a multi-loop course, right, where there's no passing, that can get frustrating for slower and faster people, right? No doubt.
Oh yeah. Because slower people are like, the person behind me wants to pass me. But no, I mean, a lot of courses have like small sections like that. Nice had that. I'm trying to think, did Texas have that? Happy Valley had that as well. I think they got rid of that section on Happy Valley. Yeah,
Virginia Blue Ridge had one pretty early on the bike, and there's a lot of other courses.
Yeah, but they're relatively short. Although Happy Valley, when I was going to race it this year and ended up not. And last year the most frustrating thing there was the speed limit, and they got rid of that this year. I'm like, oh great, now you can go zooming down the mountain. Where last year they were, if you did that, you got DQ'd. Anyways, so the bike, we get back to town and it was fine. And for me, like when you pass River Road on the way back in, it's the same place. But I think for me on the run, by the time I make it to that point, I'm just like, oh, thank God.
Hey, let's talk about that portion of the bike course too once you get past River Road, because I think it's good. Because I think, they've got the whatever they call them, the 3 bears out there, right? Like, and I personally, like, I've ridden enough. I don't think they're big hills at all, climbing back into town, right?
Yeah, they're not. They're long.
But the thing that I think is sneaky that catches up on you, you get past the 3 little like steady climbs, right? Back up, you get to that run course where that intersects, but then you have to take that right-hand turn.
Yes.
And I think that hill is probably on the bike course. It's short. It's not terribly steep, but it's not something that's really top of
demoralizing.
Right? Yeah. You're kind of like, oh, I got to the top of these, and you make that right-hand turn, and it's like, I got another one. Come on, guys.
Yes.
One.
Because you think you're done. You're like, I made it to the top. And then you're like, shit, I'm not done.
Exactly.
I have another hill.
Sneaky.
It is sneaky. I remember we did the, I was one of the leads with the Tri-Dot shakeout run. And, we kind of ran them up the run course there, and then we made the left and told them, we're like, okay, well now we're on the bike course. It's like towards the end of the bike course, and the person who is next to me is like, does the hills not end? I thought the top of the 3 bears was the hills. And we're like, well, they do end eventually
once you cross the finish line.
Yeah, once you cross the finish line. But no, you're right, you get up that, but then once you cross that, then it's downhill or flat until you get in town. And then you've got that right turn by the beach that just goes up like 1 block. But at that point on the second loop, you're like, another hill? Are you serious? But then you come zooming into transition and it's fine.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So you were on the run course.
Yes.
I do love the bike. I do love bike catchers. And I was on a call the other night for Kona, and they're not going to have bike catchers. And I'm like, really? That's such
a special thing at big races.
Yeah, I'm like, that sucks. And they said, well, with the number of people that are there, it's hard. I'm like, but it's smaller than Lake Placid. It's nice. It's a nice to have.
It is really cool.
It reduces your transition time.
You feel special too, right? As an athlete, I think getting to be at a race where there are bike catchers, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, I think I want to say all the IMs I've done have had bike catchers. Actually, did they have them at Nice? I'm not sure they had them at Nice either. Maybe not.
Oh.
Anyways, no, they had to have had them.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that run course is something else. I saw you, at least I think I saw you, in a tent on the side of the road, face down at like a chiropractor or something.
Yes.
I yelled your name, but I don't think you heard me. I'm like, gee, you relaxing over there?
Yeah. So we stayed there last year, and they've got like a Airbnb kind of rental below their building.
Yeah.
And made a good relationship, and so stayed there again this year, and we're staying there again next year. But he kind of did some work on my foot a little bit, and then he was kind of, those of us who were out there cheering, he was kind of looking everybody over. But it's a great spot right there to support. I think I got like a 2-hour trainer ride just sitting there on my trainer by the road in the rain.
Yeah, I saw your posts on social media.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Like, leave it to Thomas to get an adjustment and then get on the trainer and sit there like mocking all the people running by.
I had some good music pumping too. I had a big speaker out there, and I was trying to keep some tunes going, yell at people, cheer, and get some good vibes out there. So it was fun, double dipping, right? Like support and training too.
I tell you, by the time so we didn't talk about it. So personally, I did worse this year than I did last year. I was expecting to do about 45 minutes faster, and I was like 30 minutes slower. So that was really disappointing. And my swim was faster, my transition times were faster, and my first 2 hours on the bike were faster, but I bonked hard around 2.5 hours in. And, I was around like mile 45 when I'm like, oh my God, this sucks. And I'd never had that in a race so hard. I mean, we've all bonked, right? Yeah, I'm sure you have. And, it's certainly not the first time I have, but I'm like, so early, and I'm like, oh man. So nutrition, going back, revisiting nutrition. You and I had a very long talk on this. Just not enough carbs in the system. And, the next like 40 miles were like torture. My legs were on fire. Everything was burning. And eventually like pulled over at an aid station and like grabbed like a crazy lady, one of the like Martin salads, got yelled at as a volunteer for being too far on the road. And by too far on the road, I mean like I was on the road, like my feet were not on grass. And I guess they wanted people who were stopped to be on the grass. Like I'd never seen or heard that, but I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'm just like scarfing this thing down.
Like, it was enough. Need some calories. Let me let me get some food, and you can yell at me all you want.
Well, and it's funny because, within minutes of getting that in me, it's like you can feel it. It's like, oh, I have my power back. And that was the aid station that's at the top of the first of the Three Bears, I guess. It's like mile 85 or something like that. And like the rest of it, I kind of recovered. But dang, that run was kind of torture because my legs were trashed on the bike. Because, once you get in that, there's no sugars in your body, no glucose left. You're burning whatever you got.
Muscle?
Yeah. And so at that run, the first like 5K were all right. Not fantastic, but it was like a 20-minute 5K. And you were what, like mile 2 or something?
2-ish.
Yeah, that's why like when I saw you, I'm like, man, weren't you supposed to be out here too?
I would have rather been out there suffering with everyone, that's for sure.
Yeah. And like my first, like, so 5K was okay. And like, because you get to the top, like you were kind of at the top of the hill before you get to, like, not quite, but you got the fire station, which I think is like kind of at the top.
Yeah, a little ways down.
Yeah. And then, you have the ski jumps. Ski jumps are super scenic, although that first loop, it was pouring still on the run. And then you get out on River Run, and the next person who tells me that River Run is flat should go run it some more.
Yeah, I think people look at it and they think of it like, oh, it's flat and compared to like the rest of the run course. Right. But like, I think it's important that people go into Lake Placid know that like it's not flat. There's really I don't think there's many flat parts of that run course. You're pretty much, for the most part, either running up or down?
I mean, to put it in perspective, I ran the San Francisco Marathon a few years ago, and I love the San Francisco Marathon. It's super scenic, but unsurprisingly, San Francisco, hills. The marathon at Lake Placid, the total elevation on it is not that different from the San Francisco Marathon. It's sneaky because instead of like staring at a big mountain that you're about to run up, like in San Francisco, you got like 30 feet here, 20 feet there, 50 feet there, but it adds up.
Absolutely.
It adds up.
Yep. Especially the little hill coming back up to Main Street, or like the main street in town.
The little hill. The like quarter or third mile hill, that's like, I don't know what that incline is as a grade, but on the second loop, it might as well have been vertical.
Yeah, 100%. It is a surprisingly tough little, I mean, even biking up it, right? Like just cruising around town, but it is a sneaky little, it's not, you look at it and you're like, oh, it's a hill. It's obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're running it and you're like, that is, yeah, especially on the second loop.
Especially on the second loop. Like my hamstring has been improving. First loop, I kind of jogged up it, which is about the most I was willing to put into it. Yeah. But on the second loop, I've walked it. Yeah. I'm like the top of the hamstring was starting to be very annoyed. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to break myself on this hill.
It's definitely one of those hills that, like, if someone is planning some sort of strategic run walk, like, I mean, I pretty much think like I try and walk all aid stations, right, in an Ironman, right, get in what I need and then get back to it. But that's definitely, if somebody's got a run walk strategy, like that's one where it's like, I don't care what your intervals you were going to try and stick with or anything, like that's a hill where it's just like, if that's what your strategy is, like that's, you just take the walk on that hill.
Yeah. And like at most you're losing 3 minutes maybe. Yeah. And like, you're not going to run 6-minute miles going up that hill.
You're not going to run anything close to your pace running up that hill.
Yeah. Like it is a steep, no joke grade.
Yeah, definitely.
But then you get to turn right and do more hills. That climb it's funny in training, in the training run, that climb out to the top of the golf course there.
Yes.
One of the, a couple of the guys that were on the run, they're like, this isn't that bad. I heard that this part of the course was kind of rough. And I remember looking over to him because we were doing like 9-minute pace or something going up it. And, it's not that bad on its own. And I remember looking over to him like, report back when you're at mile 136.
Yeah. Like I'd like to know how many of them, they're like, oh, this isn't that bad, actually ran like sub 4 hours, right? Like
I'm going to guess very few, if any.
Yeah, right? I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, we think that's not that bad, but, 9:09 pace is a 4-hour marathon, right? So, like, yeah.
Yeah. My goal in a full is a 4 to 4:20. I haven't done that so far this year. I'm an okay runner.
Still time.
Yeah, there's still time. I'm working on the run. Last year, the focus was on the swim. I got the swim doing all right. I have now 3 Ironmans under 115 swims, so I'm good with that.
Take them. Yeah.
I'd love 105, but I'm like, for me, is the effort worth it versus like gains somewhere else? Anyways, you get to the top of that and you're like, oh, it's all downhill from here. It's like Placid. What goes down must go up. You got that run back you get to the bottom of the hill and then you got to run back up it.
The other thing I think people don't think about too when they look at a course like that just in general is they see that the hills and like, oh, I've got to run up these. And it's like, well, yeah, that's challenging. But what you also don't think about is you actually also have to run down them. And I think that's something that gets neglected because like that pounding, the eccentric load from running down hills, whether you're running slow, fast, doesn't matter. Like it really beats up on your quads hard, way hard. It does.
And I feel like I saw more people walking on the downhill than the uphill. I mean, on the second loop, there was certainly a lot of people walking in all directions, but I think like going uphill, like most people are like, at worst in like walk, run, or a jog.
Yeah, shuffle.
Yeah. And then but the downhill, that's when it hits, especially if you go too hard on the uphill.
Things get hurt in running downhills, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I do like that section out on Mirror Lake Drive, going around the lake. Like it's nice. Most of the way there's people. My first loop was in the rain, but so the people were kind of in shelter mode. But the second loop, towards about halfway through my second loop, the sun, the tide shifted, I guess, and the sun made an appearance. The clouds disappeared for a moment and the humidity went through the freaking roof. It went from like mid 60s to, I don't know what the temperature was, but it felt like 95.
Yeah, I mean, I know I went from like, I had a hoodie and a rain jacket on at one point. Then I just had a rain jacket. Then it was like back in a singlet. Then I was like, now I got to get my hoodie again. And the weather there is just, it can be very, I guess, very bipolar.
Yeah, I think we went through 3.5 seasons on that ride.
Yeah. Yeah, we just never got winter.
Yeah, but tell you, Lake Placid, though, the longest distance you've ever run is the 300 meters down, from when you enter the village around the oval to the finish line. At that point, you're like, I can see the finish line, but it's way over there. You can hear the announcers, and there wasn't as many spectators there when I went through as I remember last year.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe everyone went away because the sun came out.
I don't know. I felt a little bad. So, I mean, my foot was hurting pretty bad after standing around all day. And so I did not make it down to the finish, which I felt a little bad about. But, so yeah, maybe it was just my energy wasn't there to act like 100 people missing.
That's right. Yeah, your energy is the race energy. Everyone was keying off that. I don't know. I did feel bad. And so when I crossed the finish line, I like immediately, like as soon as my heart rate went down, I froze. I was like, so cold I was like actually shaking. But did you see the size of the Mylar blankets they were giving out?
No, I did not.
They were like
small ones,
third of the size of a normal like post race Mylar. They were enough that you could tie it around your waist and it might almost go around your waist.
Well, they've done a better job with nicer quality t-shirts and backpacks. Maybe they just
now we know where the money went.
That, not Mylar blankets.
Yeah. I was like, I was so cold. And, they give you the t-shirt and I immediately put it on hoping, and it got me warmer for like 3 seconds. And then it got soaked through with sweat and then I just froze. So we went back to the room and we were at the hotel up at the top of the hill. And, the downside of that is you have to go back down that hill because I had every intent in the world of going back to the finish line and watching like the late finishers. And I was so cold. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was like, that whole day, for whatever reason, like if the race felt so much harder this year for me than it did last year.
And not enough fuel will do that to you.
Yeah. That didn't help.
Definitely.
We're going to fix that for Kona.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to fix that for Kona.
Definitely.
Got some new experimental stuff. So the problem, like race nutrition, right? I feel like we're always talking about race nutrition. And like the problem for me is like usually around like mile 14 on the run, I just get like nausea and I feel like I gotta just like puke. Except at that point, like all you've been eating for 10 hours is gels. There's like, even if you were to puke, like there's nothing to come out. And then you end up running a half marathon feeling like you're going to vomit. And it's like the word to me that sucks. Like the last half of the marathon in an Ironman, when you feel like that, is just like horrible.
Yeah. Not a pleasant experience, right? I mean, I think that's a tough thing where like, everybody thinks so much about training and the race and, specific things they need to do for the race. But then, if nutrition goes sideways, you don't actually end up getting the opportunity to express the fitness from work you've done. And it just ends up becoming a very, very rough back half.
Yeah, it was disappointing for sure. Because like my fitness level this year is like measurably higher than it was last year at the same time, at the same race. And, like regardless of which tool I look in, they all say the same thing, right? My estimated finish times are going down, especially on the bike. Like my run has actually gotten worse, but my bike has gotten significantly better. My swim has gotten better. My swim has got more predictable, let's say. But yeah, that nutrition, once it gets off. So we've been experimenting this year trying to fix that because it doesn't show up in training because no training run is 12 hours long, right? I think the longest one is like 8, right? Go do, 112 miles on the bike and then do an hour on the run, maybe 2. You're still not hitting 12 hours. So that hoping Kona goes better.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure it will.
Well, it's going to go how it's going to go.
I have faith in you. It's going to go. That's all that matters.
It's going to be a race. So what else did you see on course? Like you had being an athlete, being a coach, not racing, but being there is a different perspective.
I mean, the thing that, so 2 things. We did have 2, like where we were kind of some medical issues.
Really? I saw
Yeah,
an unusual number on there.
yeah, I think there was a guy who's type 1 diabetic, and I think his pump stopped working properly. I don't know if it was
That's hard to predict.
all the rain, and so like he just crashed out.
I bet he did.
Like running, like literally is just, just tumbled and went down, and we called medical, and they came, checked him out, and then had another lady who was like throwing up in front of the, like on the, on the side of the road, and she, we tried to support her and encourage her, and then eventually had to get medical on her. She was just totally depleted, just laying there cramping up with everything. And the thing that I definitely noticed was, and that we were talking about a lot, is the lack of anybody carrying any sort of nutrition. And I mean, whether it was someone who was on the faster side or, more back of the pack finishers, there were so many people out there. And I'm a big fan of, like, I try to just rely on mostly water. And so I've got, carbs and like my gel and salt tabs, right? That's what works for me to keep it simple. And then mostly just rely on water at the aid stations. But just the lack of people carrying any sort of nutrition or hydration or anything with them was really, really surprising.
On the run, specifically.
On the run, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Like, they have, I mean, in an IM, the aid stations are very well stocked. You do other races and it's a different story, but the aid stations are predictable, plus or minus a little bit, and they're very well stocked. So like, I train with Martin gels because that's what's on course. I use other brands as well. And I'm like, on the run, if I need a gel, like, I know I can get it run roughly once every mile. So I carry one gel with me, which is my, like, just in case gel. And I think I started with one gel in my back pocket and finished with 3.
Yeah. I mean, and I get that, but if you also think about the people that, like, if someone's, the number of people out there, walking 12 to 13, 14 minute miles, right? Like, if there's an aid station every mile, I mean, and granted, it's not a hot race, so that's not a huge issue, but you've got 12 to 13, 14 minutes for some people between aid stations. And I also think sometimes, if you get to that aid station and it's like, well, I've got this, 30-gram gel, I got to get it down, get some water, get some ice, get some salt, whatever, and get on. Like, it's an easy opportunity to kind of overload your stomach, right, at the aid station.
Sure.
Then it gets wonky. Versus I am a big fan of, like, just kind of being able to take like a little hit of a gel, kind of consistently every couple minutes, and more like let it sit in your mouth and kind of absorb, right? Versus kind of just pushing it right into your gut. So I don't know. It was surprising.
Those little handheld packets that you can squeeze like several in? I had one with me at the start. They fit like 6 gels. I had one of those with me at the start. And somewhere between mile 1 and 2, it fell out of my pocket.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing because I've started using it. I like them because, like, it's less sticky. You don't have to deal with the wrappers, and it's there, like you said, it's there when you need it. But
absolutely, and I think that's I use like a 90-gram gel pouch, and so kind of just open it, take a couple little hits off that as you need, and another one in special needs, right? But I think that's at least easy to make sure you've got all of that there kind of with you for sure, right? There's no excuses.
Yeah, I did see a lot of ambulances, both on the bike and the run. I saw one person who was like down and like appeared like they looked to be unresponsive. It was on my second loop. It was right in front of the ski slopes. There was an ambulance there. And of course, everyone was a little too curious about what was going on. It's like, if you were them, you wouldn't want everybody stopping.
For sure. It's always tough. I mean, we hope everything's going to go well on race day, right? But like, nothing's guaranteed, nothing's promised, right? Like, things happen.
And even in training, like, even if you're doing race sims and you're doing bricks, like, I don't know anybody personally who's doing like a full end-to-end IM race on their own.
Definitely.
And you never know what happens. I did encounter, I don't remember if they had them last year, have you had the pickle juice? They had them on course, and I'm like, sure, I'll try one. They had, like the like 5-hour energy bottles. They were like those same bottles. I'm like, yeah, I'll try one. I think I got half the bottle in my mouth and spit 3/4 of it.
No, anything pickle flavored, I'm staying very, very, very hard away from.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. Like, give me a good solid jar of pickles, and it may not last a day.
No way, definitely not.
But the pickle juice on its own, I know there's people who swear by it, and I like intuitively, like, I know why it works and why it's good for you, but oh my God, The
They used to have that
saltiness.
was that Hot Shot product years ago. It was kind of the rage and everywhere for like an anti-cramping product, and I think it was
Yeah.
kind of same mechanism of action that the like super concentrated, I guess, pickle juice can kind of do, but those are pretty foul tasting as well, but not as bad.
Yeah, I saw at the expo they had like sparkling pickle juice, and I'm like, I don't know if that's better. Or...
No way. I'm just gonna stay away from that regardless. If you like pickles,
Yes.
I don't think less of you.
I mean, I think I've seen. I don't know. I feel like we've seen everything on course, and every time you feel that way, you find something new. Like last year, people were carrying around mustard packets. I'm like, I love mustard. I understand why you want to take that as an electrolyte, but damn.
I just think a lot of times those things kind of try and serve as like opportunities to maybe make up for some missed stuff in training.
Yeah,
That's a different story.
All right. So you have just a couple minutes before you have to jet. What did we miss? What did we forget about?
That's a good question.
And did you have more fun racing it or watching it?
I mean, it's always tough. Like it's hard being at a race when you are in shape and fit and healthy and not racing is hard. But I also sometimes have a hard time racing and focusing on myself when I've got a number of athletes racing because I'm worried about them. And that's fine with me, right? I'm good with that. But being on the side of a course when I know that, I mean, my swim and bike's fine, but like I'm not in shape to run a marathon, and my foot certainly wouldn't allow that. And so I think it was kind of nice because it definitely allows me to not have. I mean, I was bummed to not get to race, but I wasn't standing there like I should be racing right now, right?
I was honestly a bit surprised that you didn't participate and do the swim and bike and then pull yourself.
I thought about that, but I had a hip issue a couple years ago after I got hit by a car when I was trying to get back. And I did that at like Chattanooga half, Virginia half. And it was kind of like, I've done that before. I was supposed to race Wisconsin full, and I transferred down to the half. And we're going out there, but I don't know if my foot will be ready, and I don't want to do anything that compromises Spain. So that may be a race where I do swim, bike, and then DNF to get to be out on the race course because I do love that.
Well, and you'll have that much more healing time between Placid and there.
Exactly.
But these injuries are sometimes like just a week or two makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I also think, and this is not Placid related, but I do think like kind of as coaches, right? Like we need to set the example for like what we'd want our athletes to do. And I felt like, the way I handled January, February, March was already something April I wouldn't want my athletes to do, trying to push through it, right? I would want them to kind of, hey, let's back off for a bit, get this taken care of so that we can get healthy sooner. So I already did, what I wouldn't want my athletes to do. And so it was time to make the smart decisions.
No, I get that. Yeah. And I've had that same thought recently as well. It's like, am I setting the right example? Am I doing exactly what I'm telling people not to do? And I think I'm good at the moment, but I've definitely not always been there.
Yeah, we're still athletes too. Like that's what we love about it.
Well, and we're in the sport because we're passionate about it.
Yep, exactly.
I think there's pros and cons to having a coach that races.
For sure, definitely.
Right. Pro is they're experienced.
Yeah. In the trenches with you.
Yeah, the con is they might be better at telling you what to do than like setting a good example. We try, but we're still people.
But I have no problem telling somebody, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try and do what I want you to do.
You can try to do it. Yeah, I can try to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. Yeah. I hope your foot heals quickly in time for Wisconsin. That's one of the races I'm thinking about doing maybe next year. Trying to figure out what 26 looks like.
It's a great one. Madison does a great job, and having the half on Saturday and the full on Sunday, so you have like a big weekend of it. Because we've got some people racing the half and a couple people racing the full, so it's a cool place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. I kind of wish they did more of that. I know, like logistically, it's really hard, but I think it gets a lot more people engaged. And like Chattanooga, almost, I've had the thought, I'm like, why don't they have the half and they have the full? I'm like, why don't they do it the same weekend? But both of them are huge races. If
Ironman is watching, I have for years said, why don't we do Augusta on Saturday and Chattanooga full on Sunday? So people could either race and support on both of those. Ironman, if you're watching.
I know from the viewer metrics that there's at least a few.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people that I know that go race Augusta and then try and haul up to Chattanooga to be able to see people finish. It would be really awesome. They're close enough.
Yeah, it's a couple hour drive between them. It's not terrible.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining.
absolutely.
This came out of us having a long chat about my poor nutrition in the race, and we're like, hey, let's do a recap together.
Yeah, I love it.
As always, I love when you're on. We I think have similar viewpoints, but approach it slightly differently, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And till next time.
Absolutely. It was good chatting. Talk to you
All
later.
right, you too. All right, thank you, and thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, please like, subscribe. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe to that channel, and we're streaming everywhere.